Okay, it's on.
Okay.
Everyone. This is Liz Francis. She's from the Community Market Food Co-op, and she is going to give us a presentation on the where we are with the whole co-op and what we need to do to make it go forward. And so there you go, Liz.
All right. Thanks, Beth. Can everybody see my PowerPoint?
No, can't see it.
Okay. I guess I got to hit that share button, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Let's go share screen and there. And, oh, where is my share screen? Share screen. And it's going to be this. And share. And how about now? Can you see it now?
Yes. Yes.
Yep. So I'm going to talk to you about the Community Market Cooperative. Our goal has been for almost 10 years to be the first food co-op in Southern Wake County. Real quickly, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Liz Francis, and I am the chair and president of the cooperative, the Community Market Co-op right now. I came here, like so many people, from West Virginia by way of Philadelphia for 20 years. I was a working mom with a very busy life, never even had any experience with co-ops. Really, I wasn't the main person to cook or anything. So the reason why I'm saying that is, you know, you don't need tons of experience and knowledge about a cooperative to be able to have a really positive influence on leading the cooperative and the effort. And we'll talk about what is the community market and what have we done so far? What has our progress been? What could we be and how do we get there? Feel free if you want to ask any questions while I'm there, jump right in there, that's fine. So what is the community market co-op? What the community market co-op is, it's going to be a full service for-profit grocery store owned by the community based on the cooperative business model. The member owners are the shareholders. To be a member owner, it's a one-time fee of $150 per household, but everybody can shop there. Member owners determine how profits are used, if they're dividends, if people get, back money based on how much they spend at the co-op, community projects, or expansion, anything like that. That's basically how it goes. When what a co-op is not, it's not your typical for-profit business. It's not a 501c3. It's not new. Co-ops there are 250 food co-ops in the US right now, and the majority of them are over 30 years old. And it's not like a small niche kind of store with just, a small selection of select items. Collectively, food co-ops are the third largest buyer of natural foods in the nation. Up there is also Kroger's and Walmart, but we're the third largest. What a co-op does do that's different is when a store is going to open up in your community, like let's say, Harris Teeter or whatever, they spend, 5 to 10 years finding the spot, seeing where they would build, what's the economy like. They would do all that work ahead of time, and then they announce, we're going to open a new Harris Teeter, right? And so as a community-owned and driven cooperative, we have done that all up front. We did all that work up front, that 10 years of work to get the store open. We get member owners. We look at financing. We look at store designs, et cetera, et cetera. So the other thing that is real different about cooperatives is co-ops, as opposed to a regular for-profit business where the shareholders, you're responsible to the shareholders to be profitable. In a co-op, we have 7 cooperative principles that are by design should guide us as we grow. Those are that it's a voluntary and open membership, democratically member controlled, members are economically participate, we're autonomous and independent, we focus on education, training, and information. There's always cooperation between co-ops, and we have a strong concern for the community because that's who we are, because the community is who owns the co-op. Oh, push button, there we go. So this is a model. This is actually the Food Cooperative Initiative model of how you start a co-op. There's 3 phases, though the second phase is broken up into 2. The phase 1 is to organize and start to get, the people and what you need to do. Phase 2 is a feasibility stage. 2A is feasibility and 2B is planning. Phase 3 is implementation. Our co-op right now is moving over to phase 2B. We've done all the organizing and planning and getting that very first organizing. We've already done that. We've already done the feasibility studies. We have had 2 feasibility studies done, both which agree that our community is a good fit for a cooperative to be successful. We have a business plan, a pro forma. We have 542 members so far. The co-op's going to be like a serious multi-million-dollar business, and it's going to be a professional grocery store. If any of you, mattering your age, the days of, you work at the co-op and you get to take home potatoes, that kind of late 60s, early 70s model, that's not really how a successful co-op can be right now. Okay, I keep clicking the wrong screen. So again, we've completed the phase 1 organizing. We have 548 members. We completed our business plan and pro forma. We've done 2 marketing feasibility studies. Again, that say, this is your community, this is the economics, this is the population. We did one way in the beginning of when we started. We did the second one just 2 years ago. And this year we had the company that did that feasibility study revisit it to make sure, with all the change in Fuquay, like we have so much population has come in, that it's still our pro forma and the market feasibility still said that our community was a good fit for a co-op. And then most recently, we did a survey, a value survey, that we put out. We had over 200 people responded. Half of them were from already members of the co-op and half weren't. And we said, there's been a lot of change since we started. What do we want? What are you guys looking for in your co-op? What values do you want us to stress when we open that store? So once we are open, what could the community market, what could it be? Our marketing folks and advisors say we should be probably about 7,000 feet square, both retail and offices. It's going to be about the size, 2/3 the size of a Walgreens. So it'll be an easy, convenient place to shop. It won't be mammoth. And it'll be able to have everything that we need. It'll have from diapers to dog food, staples like flour and beans, to grab and go, like, having a hot food or a deli. what the community market could be is the shared values of our community are demonstrated in the community market. We'll be supporting local food, farms, and products. That was the number one concern or the number one value from all the people that responded to our survey. Also building a local focused community. Co-ops quite often, if you've ever experienced them, can be kind of a central location where people share values, even though they're very different, be it education or health or whatever. It becomes kind of a community focal point that really feeds and is an engine for the growth and development of the community. And then the third value that came out really strong was making great and healthy food at the community market co-op accessible to everyone. And so what that means is it's kind of that it's not a niche market, right? So it needs to be important that everybody, regardless of where they are on the financial strata of the community, can shop at the community market co-op and has accessibility to healthy food. One of the ways that co-ops do that is the specialty items, like let's say your beer and wine, which is always a pretty healthy selection of beer and wine at the co-op. That almost subsidizes the staples, the bulk, the nuts, fruit, flour, beans. And so that makes it so that across the community, people are able to have access to healthy food. It's really important. So what will our co-op store accomplish for our community? It really has the opportunity to transform our food shed. So we'll increase local product sales, we'll create local jobs, we'll strengthen the community with events. This is kind of that community-centered food, music, education. I know at the Durham Co-op, they always do voter registration activities at the Durham Co-op. We'll have healthy food accessible to all, and it'll strengthen the local economy. So these are some statistics for co-ops in towns like ours, our size and about like ours. So 800,000 or more in local product sales is can be generated in just our first year. So local farmers and producers would get potentially 800,000 more dollars into their income. We'll create jobs. Obviously, the people that work at the co-op, usually it's about 35 plus jobs with benefits and a fair pay for a fair day's work. Co-ops are infamous for having events like classes and training and cooking, composting, and if they're able to find a new food source, they introduce it. And so education is really a strong point for cooperatives. And making healthy food accessible for all. So, obviously there'd be SNAP. This Food for All is a program where based on easily demonstrated need results in people being able to get more food. It's not like you have to fill out 1,001 forms, but if someone has need, they get more food for less money. So that's very important. Overall, you can imagine that $4 million in annual sales at the co-op is controlled locally by the owners, and it stays in the local community. 32% of every grocery dollar we spend at the co-op will stay in the community. National chains, it's usually about 20%. Co-ops are rooted in the community. Cooperative ownership means it stays in the community and focuses on the community's well-being. Co-ops also create markets for local products and stimulating the creation of new local micro businesses. That again, it's like an engine. The co-op is like an engine generating business and income. So an example would be, again, Leela at the Durham co-op was able to have a kefir, milk kefir supplier hook up with someone that does bottling, you know. So if I'm going to put this milk kefir that I make in glass bottles, how do I do that? And with my product and with your packaging, and it's still accessible and affordable. So, you know, things that a large chain, they're just not going to be able to offer shelf space to these kind of local products and even the local farm products. So we'll create 75 jobs, $12 million worth of local food and products from farms and producers, and stimulate the starting of over a dozen new farms and small businesses, because that means if there's a market, if there's shelf space, maybe what you do is we go to, you know, Mr. Mason and we say, you know, we could buy your cabbages all year round. And maybe Mr. Mason puts in a hoop house and he grows cabbages or broccoli all year round. So now he's able to get more income and we have more local food. So, and this is a slide that, oh, look, this has a clicky thing. So we'll have transformed our local food shed. We'll have enriched our community in ways we can only dream of. The impact of what we created together will be felt throughout the region and for decades to come. So how do we do all that? What's next? So these are the steps to getting that door opening. We will determine if the community market co-op has the community support and capacity to open our store. If the answer to that is yes, we'll find the perfect site to build our store. We'll grow to 1,000 owners from 550. We'll get funding for the cost of building the store, and then we'll have groundbreaking and construction. That's the natural progression of those events. How do we get there? The first thing we have to do is demonstrate community capacity by August 15th, a mere 10 days away. What we really are in need of is 4 or more applications from folks who want to be leaders in this to run for the board of directors. Now, right now we have 4 board of directors and 2 former board of directors that volunteer, continue to help us. Really, a much better number is 9. And we need those 4 or more applicants to be across, you know, from all different places. So it needs to be men, it needs to be women, it needs to be white and brown and Black people. It needs to be people from business, people from education, people that are just home economists. Because we need new ideas, we need new energy to really invigorate our project. And I've felt invigorated over the summer with the number of people that have responded to our call. We're also asking for 20 or more committee volunteers. That seems to be going pretty well. I think we're at about 19 or 20. So I think getting 5 more volunteers is not it won't be hard for us to reach that goal. You know, like, you know, when you're dealing with volunteers, then you have the task. Those leaders have to make sure that the volunteers have stuff to do, and then it's organized. You know, it just starts to increase what we need to do. But these are the 2 things: 4 or more applicants to run for the board of directors, 25 or more committee volunteers. So far, we have received 1 application. So what I'm saying to you is, I'd love to hear from you and for you to apply to be on my board of directors. I'd love to hear from you and say, you know, I have this special talent. I'd love to be on your committee. Or I'd love, and if you want to see other presentations we've had, I also, if you can, I'd love for you to get on our newsletter where we're really publishing where we are in this whole process. We'll get to the 15th and we'll make a decision. Where are we at? How many people have applied? Can we start? Can we go? Do we need to wait a little more? You know, but we just need to get those leaders to step up so that we can really get this whole project across the finish line. So that is my spiel. I was going to put these, let's see, let's stop sharing. I was going to put these in the chat if I can figure out how to do that. But does anybody have any questions?
Liz, can you put the screen back up too, as well as that says what you can volunteer for? Because you didn't mention that.
Oh, okay. There you go. Yep. So we have a website group. So it's not only working on the website, it's giving, making sure we have content, maintain the licenses, develop it. We really, our website could use an overhaul. It's kind of a patchwork of volunteers over the last 10 years. Social media, we need folks to help with Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, postings, live events. People really love when I do live events, even when they're goofy. They just go wild for them. Outreach. So outreach is finding out places where we can get the word out about the co-op. Once we make the decision to go forward, two things will happen that are not happening right now. We will campaign for members, actively campaign, and we do that at outreach events. You know, you find festivals and fairs and all these things, and you have a booth and you have stuff in the booth and you have people sign up to get newsletters, and you know, maybe you have some people that are really slick at how to manage that process. And a photographer always is really good. So we'll have photographs for our social media. And finally, communications. We have a newsletter that right now goes out by MailChimp. We have flyers that sorely need to be updated. Press releases. If we could start to get articles in the, you know, local publications, all those kind of things, we really are ready for some refresh on those also.
Why do you need to know by August the 15th? Is that a deadline for funding or something
No,
like that?
it's arbitrary. We tried to think of, you know, we've been at this a while, and we recently rekindled our relationship with FCI. When we started way in the beginning, FCI has lots of how to start a food co-op stuff, and we were following their model. Then we were with a different consultant, another co-op consultant, and we got a lot done, a lot of education. We learned a lot, and now here we are 10 years later. And if you talk to people that are already members, what they'll say is, I didn't even know if you were still there. You know, I haven't heard from you guys. Are we still trying to open a food co-op? So we really need to reinvigorate this process. We gotta like decide, are we gonna do it or are we not gonna do it? Are we gonna do it or are we gonna dissolve? And dissolving would mean giving people's money back, that the money that we have left, and somebody else will have to start the co-op. But we could also do it. We've built a real good base. What we need now, we have this 500 plus people that are from the last 10 years. So many people, new people are in our area. You know, there's so many people that haven't even heard about us. And so we also need some marketing help we could do with that. That will come in for communications and such. And we arbitrarily picked August. We usually have our elections in January, but we didn't this year because of COVID. So if we decide to go forward, we'll have elections. We'll elect people to the board. We will do the education that we need to get them up to speed. We have packaging, we have stuff for that, online training, really good training. And we can start getting new members and then start looking for a site again, you know, kind of just starting over. And fall is usually a good time, right? Fall festivals, there's lots of fall festivals and people are out. And this fall is really good because hopefully we'll all be able to be outside. There won't be issues with COVID, etc.
This is
I have a
James.
question. Go ahead, James.
Is the 1,000 members the high watermark where you can contribute some amount of equity before you would start? And what is that per member amount for contribution, or would it vary? If you're not looking at the 1,000, would 500 do it, but you just raise your equity mark?
I think you may be beating me on what you're saying. So I'm going to give a response, and if it's not answering your question, you need to tell me. Everything's always good with more members. More members make everything good. There's no, oh, that's enough. If you have a co-op, you are constantly getting more members. When we go to get first line lending from a bank, our member list are the number of people that have joined, are an indication of the number of people that will shop and can influence whether or not we get money. So did you mean equity like that, or equity like money going back to?
Equity like startup. But you answered the question too on how number of members also relates to the second question on the financing that you would need as a part of the startup.
Right. When we first started, financing was pretty easy. If co-ops were really successful and they were lending money all over the place. This is not the case. The model now has shifted from first line lenders, banks that give us loans, hopefully at good rates, to a much higher percentage of people that gift us money, not even loan us money, people that just give us money because they believe in the co-op, because they're donors. You know, a lot more of the capital for opening is coming from those kind of sources. Now, you also can get money from the FDA, not FDA, the the government, the agricultural department of the government. And if you, right now, if you were in a zone that was a food desert, or it was a high majority of Black or brown citizens, that there's a lot of money out there for that, but Fuquay doesn't fit that bill. You know, that's not, we're not cursed with that. We have a pretty thriving economy, rental rates that are going through the roof. So there just won't be as much money that we get from grants, I guess is what I want to say. That answer the question?
Yep, but I guess what's missing for me, and this is my last question, is where does the owner equity come in? And is that what you're waiting on to start to get more members along with more equity dollars as well? Or is more, you're not really focused on owner contributing equity away from gifting. You're just looking for growing the number of members to get bank financed.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I think what you're saying is that when people buy the $150 for their common stock, that's not what gets us enough money to open a co-op, right?
Yeah. Okay.
It's, you'd have to have a whole lot of members to get $2 million, $150 at a time. You would have a capital campaign. You would do a professional capital campaign where you're going out to large donors and community and all sort of. So that money from the member owner common stock is not what gets us enough money for that.
Gotcha.
But I think is the 1,000 people is that shows interest that we have that many people that are going to shop there. So when that 1,000 is just a mark that we made, right?
Right. And typically what happens is, so we're at 500. So we'd like to get, let's say we start to go forward. I would say we'd like to have 500 more members by, let's say, September, October, November, December, right? The third quarter. I'd like to have 500 more members by the time we hit January 1st of 2022. And then typically, if you identify a site and announce it, and you now can say, not only is this an awesome idea, but here's what it will look like. Here's where it will be. So quite often membership doubles once you are able to announce a site for where your brick and mortar store will be.
What's your
And
mom
that-
getting for you?
Pardon?
That's Walter.
Oh,
Do you have a site in mind yet or not?
we do not. 3 times we've come quite close, and 3 times it did not come to fruition.
Okay.
So, and that is, once we go forward, it's not as hard to get members as it is to find a site.
Okay.
But we do have folks that over the years, they've gotten an expertise on sites and co-ops and what to look for. And we've gotten a lot of help from folks of what we will need. I don't know about grocery stores and refrigeration capacities and electrical service and all that kind of stuff. But we have over the years learned about what the questions are to ask.
Okay.
And there's a question in the chat about what mile radius will constitute local. So when you say local, what are you thinking?
So this is, usually at the discretion of the co-op. So it could be local North Carolina. It could be local United States. There are some things will never be local, right? We will not be able to grow coffee beans in the United States, right? So that won't happen. And so what you do is if the co-op decides that they want to have that as one of the values that is really strong and reflected, they would vote that to be part of the values that happens. I think in our survey, we thought of local when people responded back, local farmers, and I would see that as North Carolina. That's how I would see it, but we never defined it exactly. And one of the things that happens is there's NCG, National Cooperative Grocers. And so NCG is a distribution of natural and organic produce that once your co-op is up and running and viable, often NCG would be your additional supplier, so that you might be able to look at fair trade, right? And so you definitely could have something going on with fair trade, with coffee and all those kind of things.
And it would be nice to have, so the co-op membership would define what local means and where you're going to get where your suppliers are located then.
Well, the board and the membership would, if we wanted to define local, we would define that. And we would say we want this much of our business, this much of our product coming in to be local. The general manager defines suppliers, employees, systems, right? Once we go from a working board to a governing board, we make sure that the general manager is doing the P&L, has enough cash on hand, that she is holding up that profit side, and then making sure that we are doing the 7 cooperative principles and whatever else may have developed with the membership and the board. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then there's another question: with the increasing cost of land, etc., in our area, was purchasing a site feasible?
When we first started this, the model was not to purchase, it was to lease, and to do a lease that was back end loaded. So it would be very low rates, and for the first, increasing over the first 3 years. Anything, but one of the things that's important right now is we need to make sure that we don't say, yeah, but we tried that in the past, and you know what? Because 10 years ago is a million years ago in our community, right? 2 years ago is barely current with what today is, with how quickly, with the people that are coming into our community, with what's going on with our government and COVID and schools. I mean, it's at a breakneck pace. And that's part of the reason people really want local, because it just seems like we're getting hemmed in by these giant external outside entities. So I'm sorry, now I've gone off on a tangent.
That's okay.
I
So
forgot the
Mary,
question.
I don't know who was next. Who had their hand up first, Mary or Jen?
Jen did.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Jen, okay, please ask your question, Jen.
So Liz, I just wanted to say that I just want to make you aware of something that some of the folks in my own precinct are saying about their investment in the past in the co-op, and that is that, like, 7 years ago I gave $150 and I don't know what's come of that.
Yep.
And so I want to encourage that there be some contact with those folks,
Right,
who invested early and are wishing to know how their investment has pushed things forward to this point.
right, absolutely. And they have they're really valid in saying that, because we've been kind of silent for 2 or 3 years. We haven't really done anything. And so that's a really valid point. What we have done is tried with social media and our newsletters, but there's a lot of people that have long since our newsletters, they either they said no to it, or it got spamified, and we haven't been able to have any public events where people might be going, but if they're not getting the newsletter or Facebook, they're not hearing about it. And so part of, like, what Beth's been helping me with and sending stuff to you guys is trying to expand who we communicate with so that we can have that happen. My husband, he's like, really? Is it ever going to open? I mean, and that's a typical co-op. There's like tons of articles about when somebody says, is it ever going to open? But, and you could tell the people that are saying this to you is they're totally valid. It totally makes sense. What
So-
their 100, yeah, go ahead.
So I was just curious on those members that have been members for, that length of time. Is there any way just to send them a letter saying, this is where we are with this is how we're going forward? Please get back on the wagon with us with going to our newsletter and our Facebook page to keep updated. I mean, that might be a way to kind of quell some of that.
You mean like snail mail letter?
Yes,
Yes,
snail mail
Yeah.
there, like fold
Okay.
one up, put a stamp on it and send
Yep.
it to their house.
Absolutely.
I would be happy to help with that.
Well, because we tried a phone campaign. We see, again, I'm doing it. Yeah, but in the past. And we
Right.
have to not do the past. So that's absolutely a wonderful idea, Beth. and Jennifer for your
I got
input.
stamps. Let's go.
Okay.
Me
Because we
too.
ha-
Okay, Mary has a question now.
Yeah, so thank you guys for keeping with this. And I know it's hard to recruit volunteers for nonprofit or for boards, just whether you're nonprofit or for profit, it's just a reality. Have you guys thought about, and you may have done this already, where you identify the skill sets that you need for board members? For instance, like, do you need somebody with legal background? Do you need somebody with marketing experience or things like that? The reason I'm asking, because there's probably at least an organization or a group, if not in Fuquay area in Wake County, that you might be able to go to make your pitch. And a lot of times people are looking for community service things to do when they're part of organizations. Like, there might be a lawyer in Fuquay that's interested in doing something that would be a community focused event or activity in Fuquay. And y'all may have done this already.
And who is the group that you would go to for that you were
Well, it depends on
thinking
what your skill set you're looking for. For instance, like
okay.
if you are looking for somebody with legal expertise, you might first check to see if there's an organization of lawyers, maybe even an informal group of lawyers in Fuquay. Like there's a marketing group in Wake County that people that deal with marketing, in their jobs belong to. There's a like human resource management association for people that deal with personnel type issues, things like that.
It would also be helpful if we would say, I'm interested, but I don't know that I have a skill set that you might need. If you know what skill sets you're looking for, that might help me identify if I'd be qualified or if anyone I know would be qualified.
Right, absolutely. And so that's part of, we did these broad kind of committees, but the idea is to get people pointed to what we need help in. Right now, what we need help in mostly is to get people on the board. And then once that happens, we can start to do outreach and other things.
But I think one of the things I was trying to make is people this day and time, for the most part, aren't going to sign up to commit to a board if they don't know kind of what they're expected to do.
What the expectations are for their position.
So what I would say to you is that we did a what to expect when you join the board. We have a recording of that meeting. And I don't know if I can get the list of people that are here so I could send stuff out, or Beth, you would do it.
Actually,
go ahead.
I sent that out. I sent that out in the letters I sent out to all the places. So they did get it at one point because it's in that letter, isn't it?
It might be.
Yeah, it is. It's at the bottom of the letter.
Right.
Well, I don't know how, I'm sorry. I don't know how I found out about this. So I don't have any of that information.
Okay, Lorna, could you put your email address in the chat so I can send you information?
Sure.
And we could also put in the chat, now that I'm getting a little.
I put the email address in, Liz, but I didn't have the other information to put in.
So here's that. And now where's the chat at?
Copy.
For me, the trick is negotiating this. Come on, where's it at?
James has a question, so go ahead, James, while we're trying to poke at this.
Okay, so 10 years is a long time. And maybe as a part of the plan, I'm not sure how the co-ops work, but let's say, in your plan, you said this has to come to some milestone in 3 years, or we will disband. Why has it taken 10 years? Has it been that the 500 members you're just getting to the 500?
No, it's not membership.
Okay.
What has been the sticking point for us has been a site. That has, we think we have a site. We're ready to go. We have designers coming in doing store design. We're ready to start. We have people lined up to start our capital campaign, and then we don't have a site, and then we don't have a place to open the store. That really has been the tough nut for us throughout all of this.
Okay, and the option, again, because of the change, you know, the plan is to opt to build versus lease as a start. Has been more optimal to do it. Yeah, as a
And so, you know, if we had people that were working with us, be they on committees or on the board or whatever, and they're like, wow, what do you guys, how come you never thought of building? And we're like, well, we just never did. So tell us, teach us. You know what I mean? That's why we need new ideas and new people.
With the
Got it.
cost of land in Fuquay Varina, I'm not sure that you would want to start from scratch. Leasing a building would probably be the most economical, you know, way to go. Because if the way the prices are at this point, we'd have to see what the feasibility of that is.
When we started this, we were looking at $8 to $10 a square foot for leasing. And it's what, 20, 25 bucks now? But you know, that really, I don't think the finances are what holds us back. Right now, what's holding us back is people that can put the time and energy into all this right now. New ideas.
okay.
At this point, if you have any more questions, let us know, or, you know, so that we can go to the next part of our meeting.
Okie dokie.
Thank you.
Alright.
This is really exciting.